Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Chioma Stitches and my name is Chioma. I would like to welcome all of you right back to the channel. I hope you had a blast watching the last tutorial because I did, and I love the outfit we made. On today's tutorial, we are going to be using the same pattern we used for the last tutorial. Only we're going to be altering it a little bit, okay? There's going to be a little bit of alteration. So this is the bustier we drafted for the previous tutorial. And so this is the front piece and this is the back piece. This is the back yoke and this is the front yoke. And for this tutorial as well, we're not going to be needing the yoke. I'm just going to keep this because I might need it for something else. So I'm going to just refer all of you back to this other tutorial, and I will leave the link in the description box so you can check it out on how we drafted it from start to finish, and then you can now understand how we got this, so we can be on the same page as we go on. All right, so I'm going to be taking this one out, and this is the skirt pattern. That's the lower bodice pattern for this one, and we're going to be, for this particular tutorial, we're making a top and a skirt, unlike the gown we made in the previous tutorial. And since I'm using the same pattern and it's for the same person, the same measurement, I'm going to be just making a little bit of alteration. Okay, now for this upper bodice, I'm going to be taking out like 1 inch. I'm going to be reducing it by 1 inch, and that's because I don't want this to join. I want it to be, this is going to be a crop top, and I would like it to be a bit shorter, so I'm going to be making it 1 inch shorter. I'm going to be cutting out 1 inch for this upper bodice, but I won't cut it on this pattern. We're going to transfer the pattern to fabric and trim out the 1 inch. And then for the skirt, I'm going to be cutting out the band because this lower bodice is cut from the waistline all the way, and we would like to differentiate it by knowing where our band starts and stops. So I'm going to be using a 1.5 inch band for this. So I'm going to be cutting out, I'll be folding it in by 1.5 inch before we transfer to fabric. These are the fabrics I'm going to be working with. This is for the upper bodice. This is the lining piece for the upper bodice, the zipper for the upper bodice, and this is going to be for the, this is for the skirt, the lower bodice, and this is the lining piece, and this is the zipper. Now these two fabrics are not exactly the same. This is a Duchess fabric, soft, friendly, breathable, and shiny, very perfect. I love it. The fabric is really eye-catchy. So, and then this is a Mikado silk. It is strong, it's thick, it is shiny but not stretchy. There's no bit of stretchiness to it at all. Meanwhile, this one has a little bit of stretch to it. So if you make this without a lining, it is even better because it gives you room for you to like play around with the fabric. So now I'm even considering not making it with the lining. So I might decide not to make it with the lining, and I'll just take out the lining so that I can make it so that the skirts will have the whole of the effect I want it to have. So now I'm reconsidering. I think I will take out the lining piece and make it with only the fabric and the zipper. All right, this is for the lower bodice, but for the upper bodice we definitely need our lining piece. Okay, these are the fabrics I'm going to be working with. I'm just going to go ahead and place it where I'm going to cut it out on the fabric. So this is it. I've added my 1/2 inch sewing allowance on this side, and then 1.5 inch on the sides, and of course 1/4 inch on the top. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out and use the same pattern to cut out the lining, and then I'll use the skirt pattern to cut out the lower bodice. I want to welcome all our new subscribers. You guys are welcome. We've had new inflow of subscribers. I hope you guys decide to stick around, and if you're seeing this channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe. And now to cut out the base for my rose, I'm going to be folding my fabric in half, using this plate as a guide and tracing out the circle. I'm going to go ahead and add like 1 inch all around the circle to get the size that I want, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it and then sew it all around, leaving like 1/2 inch or 1 inch opening where I can turn the whole fabric inside out. And then for this part, I'm going to go ahead and join the bustier area with 1/2 inch, and I will take out the dart of 1.5 inch. I'm trying to use this pattern to cut out the breast part, so I just placed it directly under the bust where the bust stops. Okay, and I'm going to just cut it out. And as you can see, I cut this with the sewing allowance, so I'm going to be using the same sewing allowance to sew it. Okay, and I'm going to be taking out the top like 0.75 inch or something. Now this part I'm taking out is so that it will not affect when you are turning over the lining piece to cover up the top. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside. I'll use the same thing to do for this part. So I place it directly underneath. I'm going to trace this out first with my marker. Now this one will stop somewhere like 1.5 inch from your armhole. Okay, so I'm going to stop somewhere around here, and I'm just going to go ahead and mark this and just bring it down. So this is the up. I'm using an arrow to indicate where the up is. So I'm going to cut this out as well. Now this, I'm going to be sewing these ones separately. So I'm going to sew this separately and sew the main fabric separately. So I am sewing the part that has the glue to the parts that have the glue. Okay, so I'm going to be pinning this. I will sew it separately because after sewing it, I will now attach it to the bodice that I have also sewn. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this and sew this. Okay, I've marked out my dart lines on the back piece. I'm going to go ahead and sew it. Okay, so this is the circle I cut out. I'm just going to turn it inside out. And by the way, I've made cuts all around so that when I open it up, it will lap during ironing. So I'm going to iron this, and I'll lock this place. I'll top stitch this place and iron it so it will go flat. This is the breast part I cut out. So I'm going to trim out the excess. I'm going to trim out the sewing allowance, trim it out very close because I'll be ironing it like this on the cup area. So this is the cup area. This is the bustier. I have sewn it and I made cuts as well. So I'm going to open it up and iron it, and I'm opening the seam line and iron the seam line. And then I'm going to place this exactly on the positions where it's supposed to be, and I'm going to iron it down. This is so that you will not have any puffiness. When you do it this way, you have a smoother finish. I'm going to show us that when I iron it, you see that it has a smoother finish when you do it individually. That is why I had to sew the part that has the glue will now be the right side, the side you are going to be ironing it on. You can also add a little bit of hemming gum around it so that you ensure that it actually sticks properly. I've sewn the darts. I'm also going to go ahead and iron all of the darts area. Okay, so here I've ironed it and I've opened up the seam line. This is how it looks at the back. Look at how neat this looks, and look at that cup area it's giving. Okay, so this is where I will now place this. Now this is exactly the underbust. I have marked out the underbust where it is. You take your measurement from your pattern where your underbust line starts. That's where you're going to place this, like so, and then you are going to iron it. I'm going to start ironing this carefully. So you try to use your curved area pad. So try to use this something like this. This is what I use in ironing curved areas, so you can curve it in. I'm just going to take out some of the excesses. So I'm going to go ahead and iron this inside here. You can also use some of this. You can place some of the hemming gum inside. Use a steam iron. Every tailor should have a steam iron. So this indicates where the up is, because after you have joined it, it tends to look similar to the down part. So just so you don't mistakenly turn it the wrong way. So this is it. You're going to start placing it like so and ironing it. Okay. All right. So I want to cut out the spaghetti sleeve. The length is 15.8 inches and the width is 1.2 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and sew it. Now you can fold it like this, sew it, lock one side, and then sew in the middle all the way straight. Use your loop turner and turn it inside out to get your rope, or you can just do the old school way, just fold it in from here and like this and top stitch it to get your rope. This is the spaghetti sleeve we're going to be using. And also do well to watch the pattern we drafted, because you will know that from that pattern, our yoke, we took out 7 inches at the top, okay, for the yoke. So that 7 inches into 2 will be 14 inches. Now for ease and for sewing allowance, that is why I have my rope to be 15.8 inches. I'm going to be using like 0.75 inches to sew it on the front, and then the excess is going to be used to sew it at the back. And this is bustier. Look at how it's sitting. I made a mistake and I tried to pull out my fabric and replace it. This is a bit elastic. The breast part is a bit elastic, so the thing stretched out. I had to trim out that part that was puffing out. That is why you have this cut here and here. So when you are trying to use this method, do well to be precise. Do not make mistake so that you will not have to remove the breast part and reattach it, because when you are doing that, it stretches out the elasticity of the breast part, which will now create these folds that I had to trim out by taking out like a dart. You can see the trimming I did. Otherwise, it is a beautiful method to use. Look at how neat this is, and look at how our breast part is sitting. And this is the lining that we're going to be using to sew it. But before we attach the lining, we have to create the rope first, because the rope is going to be sewn directly inside for the front part. Only at the back part am I going to be tacking it at the back. Okay, so also remember that my lining piece is 1 inch shorter than the main fabric. This is to help concealing it properly. And then this is the back pieces. I've taken out the darts for both the lining pieces and the main fabric. And for this is the back. I'm going to go ahead and start sewing it. I'm going to go ahead and sew the back, the top stitch it and sew it all around, leaving just a little bit of opening where I can turn it inside out. I'll do it for both sides. Okay, this is important. I'm going to sew the top, turn it up, stitch it, and then sew all around. I'm going to show us that. This is the part that is going to be holding the ruffle. I've ironed it out. We're going to be creating the ruffle on it using the organza, or you can call it organdy. That's the one that is a bit fabric-like, that is thicker, less transparent. That's like almost translucent and thick. Okay, that's one we're using to make our rose. So stay tuned. I'm going to go ahead and seal up this place and prepare the rest. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew the top for the back, as you can see, and I have top stitched it. Now you have to make the top stitching very close to the seam line. That way it makes it very neat. And look at the difference between the lining piece and the main fabric. So what I talked about is you're going to now fold this place like this. You're going to first sew the hem, right, with 1/4 of an inch, and then you're going to use the same 1/4 of an inch to sew the seam, the zip line, and the seam allowance. Okay, so that you keep everything all concealed. Then you can leave like an inch or 1.5 inch opening here where you can turn everything out, like I have done on this other side. Look at this, and this is the opening. So I'm just going to turn everything inside out and neatly iron it. This is to avoid weaving, that I won't have to weave this upper bodice. So I'm going to pull out all the edges with a pin, and I'm going to iron it, and then I'm going to lock here completely. So I'm going to go ahead and iron it out. Alright, so and I will repeat the same thing on this side. I've created the rope I'm going to be using for my spaghetti sleeve. Okay, so I just sewed it the way you sew a rope, just normally. Alright, so I'm going to be attaching this here, and this is what I'm going to do. So this is like a method you can try out. I'm going to place it like so. I'm going to place it on this bustier joining. Now you can just move in like 1/4 of an inch out and just pin it down there. So now I'm going to go ahead and sew, top stitch it, right? I'm going to go ahead and sew the top and top stitch on the lining like I did on the back piece, okay, and top stitch it on the lining like I did on this piece. And I'll also sew the hem and sew the sides and turn it inside out like I did for this other back piece. Okay, just the very same thing. This is the skirt pattern. So I've taken out the darts for the skirts, you can see, taking out the darts. So next thing you're going to do is just join the band. Okay, so what I did is just sew the band straight forward, just straight forward. And then on this part is that my band was not enough to get here, but it is also okay because I'm only going to be sewing from somewhere around here. So this is like an excess, okay, on the sewing allowance. So I'm going to be trimming it out. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and trim. I'm going to trim out this part that is bigger than my waist, but this length is more than enough with both sewing allowance. I hope you understand that. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the band for the front piece as well, and then I will attach the zipper for this back piece. And here is the bustier. I've sewn the lining and I've concealed every sewing inside. Look at how neat it looks, and see how our cup is standing. This is the back. Look at how neatly ironed it looks. I've also finished it off just like I did for the front piece. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the darts, and then we can join the back piece and the front piece. But first, let's sew the zipper. I've sewn the zipper for the skirt part, and look at how neat it looks. I also hemmed the edges and ironed it. Now look at it from the right side, looking so clean and beautiful. So now I'm going to go ahead and join the front piece and the back piece. I'm going to go ahead and sew on the side using our 1.5 inch sewing allowance. And this is it. I've gone ahead to sew it, and I'm going to cut out the excess of the zipper, and I made a little zipper pocket that I can use to cover it so it doesn't loosen out. And I'm going to go ahead and sew that. I have also sewn the zipper for the top part, and look at how neat this looks. I'm also going to go ahead and cut out the excess of the zipper, but before you do that, you have to zip it down before you cut it out. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew the sides, okay, using our 1.5 inch sewing allowance. I'm going to join the sides. Don't forget to check out the drafting process of this bustier. I'm leaving the link in the description box, you can check it out. I will also leave the link to how to draft a basic skirt pattern. I've cut out the excess of the zipper, and I'm going to be tucking it in behind the seam allowance, just like this. So this is the fabric I'm going to be using for the rose effect in the front, and this is called organdy, like a thicker organza. This one feels like a fabric. It has the fabric texture, okay, it's not so harsh like the other organza. So this is the one I'm working with, and this, what I have is a complete 1 yard, and I cut it by, this is 7.5 inches, this is like 6.5 or so, and this one is about 5 inches. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and hem this with 1/4 inch all the way down, and I'm going to turn it inside out. So I'm going to be joining this, but there are 2 of this length, 2 of this length, 2 of this length. I'm going to go ahead and join them and sew it to make out the robe, because we are going to be sewing it around here. We are going to be using it to make a rose around here, and for this rose you can use pleating or whatever method you want to use to create the rose. I'm going to show us the method I used to achieve this dress. And this is the skirt part. I've ironed it, I've turned it inside out, I've ironed, and I've gone ahead to join the sides. So this is how it looks. Look at how beautiful this skirt is and shiny. But of course I'm going to give it knit weaving to conceal all of this rough part inside. And this is the top. I have ironed it out as well after joining the sides. This is the inside, how it looks, very clean. So for the spaghetti sleeve, I just pinned it down. I'm going to go ahead and lock it by double stitching here. So you just measure, take your measurement and know the length of the spaghetti sleeve you'll be needing, or you can wear it on your body and then pin it while you are wearing it. That way you can also be very sure of what quantity of fabric you need for that. So let me go ahead and prepare this so we can start. So this is the pieces I cut out. I'm gonna have to sew them round, turn them inside out. On this particular one, I have run a loose stitch at the edge where I sewed it, okay, so I can gather it. And then for this one, I went ahead to pleat it. Look at this, I went ahead to pleat it so I can use it to run round. So I'm trying to see which of them I would prefer, whether I would prefer using only the pleats, or I might combine it, use the pleat for the first layer and the second layer will be the gather. So let's go ahead. So I'm going to start pinning this, starting from 1 inch inside, because I want it to be full, so I want this to be very busy around here. So let's start from somewhere around here. Okay, so when I'm getting here towards the end, I'm just going to come here like so, and then move the next one inside like this and continue going like this until I get to the end. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this one first. So this is what I have, so I'm going to go over it again. The first pleated ruffle went round twice, so I'm going to try to use this one to go round as well, and this one is going to be a gather, so I'm going to just pin it. So I'm going to make a knot with the first rope so that it doesn't lose out while I am pulling on it. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and start pulling on one of the ropes. I'm going to go ahead and pull this and gather it all the way first. So now that I've gathered it all, I'm going to start pinning it the way I did this pleated one, starting from where the pleated one stopped. I'm going to go ahead and sew it all around, like so, and whatever is left, keep going until you exhaust the space that's in between. This is where we are at, and this is what is remaining. Look at this. So I like the fullness I'm getting, but I might add extra fabric on the inside. You can open up inside and add extra, okay, all the way to get it to be even fuller than this. Okay, and this part that is remaining, I have passed my thread. This is my hand needle. I've passed thread in it, and I'm going to go ahead and use this to tack this place, okay, because I couldn't sew it in the machine anymore. Look at what I'm doing. I'm going to sew it like a running stitch, and I'm going to gather it. And then this part that is remaining, obviously I'm going to make it smaller. Okay, so I'm going to take this and then push the ends inside this place, and I will start sewing it. Okay, so with this, like so, if this fullness is enough for you, you can leave it at this. If not, you can also add extra in between and make it as full as you want, and then you attach it to your top. Okay, by the way guys, if at this point you have not subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on your notification bell so that you get notified whenever I drop a new content. I would also appreciate it if you guys can share my video on WhatsApp status or Facebook group, so that I can get more audience and this community can grow. I would appreciate that very much. And for those of you that take out time to leave comments in the comment section and to like my videos, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, so this is what you're going to do. You're going to take this like so and place it wherever you want on your dress. This is what we are aiming for. Okay, so you can place it like this or like this, however you just need to. And if you want it to start, if you want the wave to start exactly at the length so that it doesn't go longer than your dress, you can come up here and tack it. So I'm going to go ahead and tack this all around, and then I'll style it on myself and show us how it looks. If you're going to try your own, I'd like to see your practicals. Like I always say, you can drop pictures of your practicals in our Facebook group at Creative Tailoring and Styling. And of course, if you have any comments or whatever you have to tell us, leave it in the comment section. We'll get to it. See you guys in my next tutorial. Bye bye.